Hello friends! Today's video is the first in a series where I will be walking you through everything that you ought to know if you're going to be working in small scale theater, low budget theater, or even doing something as small and easy as helping out with a dance recital or a school play with the costumes backstage. I've found that whenever you look for help as a beginner costumer, or whenever you look for tips and tricks for budget theater, you don't really find specifically information for theater costumers who are not at a really high level like Broadway where you have a budget, or small theater tips that are applicable or useful. There just isn't very much out there, and there especially was not very much out there when I was 16 and actually learning this stuff. So I really want to do this series so that, you know, the modern version of Baby Maya can have a little bit of help. Anyways, for today's topic, we're going to be talking about sanitation, which is kind of topical right now. Cleaning your costumes is very important. If you're going to be doing a multi-run show, which means that you're performing the same show more than once and the same clothes are going to be going on the same actors more than once, you're really going to want to look into cleaning them. You really don't want your actors to be putting stinky clothes on every night. Not only is it gross and has the potential to look bad if there's, you know, stainage, could cause skin infections. Stink is caused by bacteria, and putting bacteria up against your skin night after night could cause, at worst, a skin infection, at best, some irritation. It's just not something to chance. So it really is important to take care of your actors and make sure that the clothes that they're putting on every night are clean. And we're going to walk through some of the ways to do that, because it's not always cut and dry. Any clothing that can be washed in a washing machine should be. It will make your life a lot easier. One method of getting clothing organized and ready for you at the end of the night is to put laundry baskets in the men and women's changing rooms and any individual changing rooms. And you can put a little sign above the laundry basket with an arrow pointing down that says what is supposed to go in that basket. For example, if you have lights and darks, you can have a light sign and a dark sign. Or if you have machine wash and hand wash items, you can put those on the signs as well. Whatever works for you with whatever show you have going on. Each show is going to have wildly different needs. However you decide to organize your baskets, make sure that you are announcing it to the actors nightly. Even adults struggle to remember things. So it's really important to let them know every single night, hey, by the way, I want, you know, for example, maybe all of the black leggings to go in the dark spin, or if you have a white button-up shirt in the waiter scene, make sure that you put that in the machine wash bin. Or all of your leotards and tights dancers, those need to go in the hand wash bin. These are examples of some of the things you might need to tell them every night. Whatever you think the hang-ups are gonna be, write those down as notes and give them to the stage manager, or if you have a studio where the director has you give notes nightly to the actors before a performance, just say them yourself. And they might change. You might find that your actors one night are really, really good at putting all of their hand wash items in the hand wash bag, but they're mixing up their darks or lights. These things are subject to change. Make sure that you're paying attention to what's happening and informing the rest of the crew accordingly. It's not as easy as it sounds. All of theater is just having a million things in the air at once and figuring out the best way to get those on the ground where they're supposed to be. If you're doing a show primarily with children, you're going to want to have a mom volunteer to stand by the laundry baskets and direct things to where they're going to go, because 9-year-olds don't really understand that sort of thing. And prepare yourself mentally for things to not wind up at all where they're supposed to be. That's just part of how it works. It doesn't mean that people aren't listening to you or that they don't respect you. It just means that they're actors and they're excited. Now, some theater buildings are lucky enough to have a laundry machine in the building, or a whole laundry room even. And if you are lucky enough to have access to one of these, great, use it, that's awesome. But if you're renting a building and you don't have access, or you didn't purchase access to the laundry room, or you're doing, you know, Shakespeare in the Park, where you don't have a washing machine in your amphitheater, obviously, you're going to need to take all of the hand wash items either home to your personal home to wash, or to a laundromat, or to a pre-decided laundry room of some sorts. Make sure that you put down in your expenses either your laundromat bill or a charge for soap and dryer balls and the energy that you've been using. It's kind of important to be reimbursed for these things. Now, I'm going to assume that you know how to run a washing machine, but I'm going to give you this one little note. You're going to want to make sure that you get fragrance-free and hypoallergenic soap. Your laundry soap is really important because if it has a smell, if you have anyone in the cast that's allergic to fragrance, now you're potentially causing them to have a reaction, which you don't want. Theater in Tech Week, which is when costumes start being worn, that tends to be a very stressful time. So if anybody, you know, has very sensitive skin, fragrance can irritate it. And I have heard a lot of my singer friends say that they find fragrance to be really annoying when they're taking deep belly breaths because they can feel it like in the back of their throat and they don't particularly enjoy that. So that's a little pro tip for you. Keep the fragrance out of the load. It does not need to smell pretty, it just needs to be clean. You can also get wool dryer balls to use that have no fragrance to them as opposed to using those dryer sheets. And the wool balls will be just as good, if not better, at getting the static cling out, but they won't be adding any scent. Now, let's talk about hand washing. What needs hand washing? Tights, stockings, leotards, and corsets, or anything with boning really. Things that have beading, or embroidery, or large amounts of like ribbons and notions sewn on them, and anything that is a shrink risk. I'm gonna put a basic laundry guide in the description box because sometimes you do want to refresh this knowledge before Tech Week. And I will link to Ariana Black's video for how to hand wash a corset because that is a little bit more specific and I don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel. She's already got a great tutorial. And corsets are also very highly specialized, so if you know you have a lot of those in your show, you'll want that specialized information. Now, let me show you how to hand wash a leotard and some tights. To hand wash your clothes, you're going to need some laundry soap. I'm using some Castle soap because it's unscented and I don't have any other unscented laundry soap on hand. Now, I'm just doing this in my bathroom sink, which I discovered does not actually hold water during this process, so bear with me a little bit. Now, you're going to want to wet your tights to start out with. Use cold water, as cold as you can stand it, and get them really, really wet. You'll notice that I'm focusing on the crotch and the feet. These are the hot spots, as I like to call them. Hot spots like the feet, the chest, the underarms, and the crotch and buttocks are areas where you tend to sweat the most, and they tend to get a little bit stanky because of that. So you're really going to want to load it up with soap and scrub really well. Now you'll notice that I'm not using my nails to scrub, I'm using my fingers, and I'm not rubbing hard enough to create pills, I'm just distributing the suds as well as I can. The whole point of hand washing is to wash it gently, so make sure that you are indeed being gentle. You can use rubber gloves to do this, which I would recommend if you're going to be doing an entire cast's worth of tights every night, just because that will help protect your hands from the suds. They can get really drying after a while. Also, one quick note about cold water. If you have anyone on your costuming crew that has arthritis or nerve sensitivity in their hands, or any kind of circulatory disorder, don't let them do the hand washing, because the cold water will start to really hurt their hands. Once you have the suds fully distributed through the tights, make sure and rinse them out really, really well. See how cloudy that water is? That's all of the dirt and oil and dry skin that was stuck in these tights. Ew. Squeeze out as much of the water as you possibly can before hanging them up to dry. And for the leotard, we're going to do basically the same thing. Wet the leotard first and make sure that you focus on the hot spots like the crotch, the underarms, and the chest. Leotards are fun because sometimes the water doesn't really absorb in right away. It beads up and you have to like really squeeze it. You can hand wash a whole sink full or tub full of items all at once. I would actually highly recommend that because it makes it go faster, but I'm just doing this little demo in my tiny sink. Just make sure if you're doing a huge batch like that, that you're rinsing with clean water for each garment. And once again, squeeze out as much of the excess water as you possibly can before hanging your items up to dry. Now, if you're in some kind of hurry, you could put a fan in front of your drying clothes or use a hairdryer with the heat on low. However, don't put drying clothes over a radiator or a space heater or an open flame of any kind. It seems like that should be common sense, but I've had some people try to do that on me, and it's just a really bad idea. Things could catch on fire. You could damage the space heater. Just don't do it. Now, you might be thinking that's all fine and dandy, but what about the things I have that can't really be washed? Either because they're silk or because they're wool? Well, I have a solution for that. Dry cleaning is in and of itself a really complicated process, and to say that this is a DIY dry cleaning is a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's a really commonly done thing, and you've probably seen it yourself. Obviously, at the end of the show's run, you're going to want to do real dry cleaning. You're going to want to take all those items to an actual dry cleaners, but for in between, for nightly, a little spray that you can use, you're just going to take some vodka and you're going to dilute it to about 50%. No. Put down the vodka, put down the tequila, put down the whiskey. We do not use party time adult drinks to clean our clothes. This is a very common myth, and it's not necessarily dangerous because it's not going to damage anything. However, it's not going to be as effective. This vodka right here, it does have an alcohol content and it does have antibacterial properties. If you dilute it, however, it is going to have even less antibacterial properties. And when you're doing a light misting of it, it's gonna do basically nothing. So, I mean, this is fine and dandy for after the show to have with some friends, but spraying it on your clothes isn't really gonna do anything. I don't know who got on Pinterest and started this rumor, but it's not factual, and misinformation on the internet is really common, so don't feel bad for falling for it. I am very gullible too. But here's the real way to make a spray for your clothes. You're going to start out with some 70% isopropyl alcohol. I wouldn't go with a percentage less than 70 because, like I said before, we want an effective antibacterial spray. You're going to pour some of this into a spray bottle. Any spray bottle will work as long as it is clean and can spray a nice fine mist. Because alcohol evaporates and your spray bottle is not an airtight container, only pour in what you're going to need for the day. Otherwise, you'll just be wasting it. Next, spritz your garment in a nice fine mist, making sure to get all over the fabric. If it's a fabric that you're concerned about being like stained or damaged in some way, do a little test spray on the inside of the fabric and make sure that everything is fine. Ideally, you'll want to spray both sides of the fabric, but pay special attention to the inside, especially around the underarms and the chest, because like we spoke about before, those are the hot spots. You'll want your fabric to be lightly damp. It should only take about 30 minutes to dry, but sometimes if it's really heavily sprayed, it can take as much as 40. And once your alcohol evaporates, it shouldn't smell like the alcohol anymore, so once it's dry, there won't be any fumes. In my own wardrobe, I use this spray for my nice wool skirts so that I can just spritz the inside every time I wear them, and then I don't really have to worry about taking them to the dry cleaners as often. In a pinch, this will also work on the inside of shoes, but they do make a special shoe spray for just this reason that is a little bit heavier duty. I've never heard of this causing any problems personally, but I could see someone with like very sensitive skin potentially having an issue with it. So when you're getting your actor's measurements, you might want to ask about allergies, of course, and ask specifically if they've ever had a sensitivity to hand sanitizer, because it's the same ingredient that's the main ingredient in hand sanitizer. So if they say something like, wow, every time I'm even near hand sanitizer, I break out, then don't spray their clothes. Work out some arrangement with them. Also, I wanted to address another rumor. I've heard of people taking like baking soda and just sprinkling that on clothes, and that's very basic, so it might potentially be a skin irritant if left on the cloth for your actors to put on, and it's not an antibacterial at all. I don't know where this idea came from, but it's not practical. I know that baking soda and vinegar will sometimes be used to get stains out of things, but stain removal is a whole nother animal. I'll link to some resources on that as well, because anytime I get a stain on something, I always have to look them up, because it's different for every type of stain. Now, another thing that you might have to wash would be a rump or a fat suit of some kind. These are basically structured pillows that add volume to the body. Either a gut or a bum or an all-over body shape, and these are kind of a whole nother animal. You don't necessarily want to be, you know, mashing them in water because you want them to be fluffy, so I would recommend either spraying them or hand washing them and then just throwing them in your dryer. Throw them in the dryer by themselves though, and that will fluff them back up. Hopefully you won't need to wash these nightly, but if you have a particularly sweaty actor, you probably will need to wash it nightly just so that there isn't a smell, because bacteria eat your sweat and then they multiply and it's a whole thing. So if you can get away with not washing them nightly, go for it, but have a conversation with your actor and do what they're comfortable with. Well, that's about all I got. Thank you for stopping by, and if this was helpful to you at all, then please subscribe so you can stick around for the next one. And if you liked the video, please don't forget to give it a like so that someone like you can see it as well. I'm planning on doing a whole series of this, like I already said, and in August, as part of a special costume event, I'm going to be releasing at least 3 videos and possibly a free pattern that'll help you with your sewing endeavors. So very exciting things are on the way. But that's enough of me yammering on. I'll see you guys later. Bye, friends! One thing that you may want to do... Why was I that confident? Ha! That was so cool in my head, and then I did it. Kitty, you're really not gonna like this. I would like for you to leave so you don't hurt your very sensitive nose. No, I don't want to spray you. I really don't want to spray you, cat, okay? Shoo shoo! I'm never taking shots as a bit in a video again. I'm sorry, Mom.